People injured here. 1v1 Hive City, blue side. It's Sindri Myr plays a Chaos Sorcerer, offensive and destructive commander. Lots of great manipulation and control abilities, and pretty killy too. Begins in melee combat, and up against on the red side is Treehugger as a Hive Tyrant, very stompy and tanky commander, walks through cover and cannot be suppressed. Some very good offense, disruption and support. Begins in melee combat. Hive City then, not a map you see often. In fact, I don't think I've ever casted a game on this map. You have these insanely natural rec and power points, but I think that's because all of the rest of the points are pretty much up for grabs across the middle. I mean, having a bad engagement on this map against a mobile race is pretty bad, because they can spread to one side and cap everything pretty quickly. We've got double termagants up for Treehugger. Sindri with those double heretics into Chaos Space Marines, wanting to get that second heretic squad up quickly so he can start putting pressure on points. There is the Doom Bolts from the Chaos Sorcerer, one of his starting abilities, trying to catch those Hormagaunt snapping, but didn't quite manage it. Bit weird over on this side. You have these pipes, you can actually walk under them, as you saw the Sorcerer do there, but otherwise cut off by those ground pipes. Chaos Space Marines running into termagants. Here comes the Hive Tyrant, tying up those CSM. He's so great at that early game. Put him into the squad of 3 CSM or 3 tactical marines, and he just annoys them for ages, forcing them to melee attack him unless you micro them around to get their ranged weapons to fire. Looks like Sindri was not really paying attention to these guys there. Started to cap as if he was gonna just put up with the Hive Tyrant's attacks and cap, but then he just retreated anyway. Hive Tyrant actually does a fair amount of damage out the gate. Doesn't have a sidearm, of course, much like the Lictor Alpha, and in fact all of the Tyranid commanders, when they have melee weapons. The Ravenant Alpha also cannot shoot ranged when he gets a melee weapon. I think the Hive Tyrant does around 50 DPS, not quite as much as the Lictor Alpha, but he is hugely tough at 1080 hit points. Gives you so much staying power early on. Chaos Sorcerer using the Sword of Flame, as you can see, doing a pretty good job there on the Hive Tyrant, stacking up that damage over time on him. Does it stack? I don't even know if it stacks. Uh-oh, Hormagaunts are going to wipe. Are they? Unlucky not to do so. I think the Hive Tyrant blundering through them in retreat actually blocked the path of those heretics there. Warrior Brood on the field, as you can see. Heavy infantry begin as a pretty good melee unit. They can leap into combat passively and have power melee weapons. 18 DPS per model, I believe it is. 477, 482. Such great synergy with Hormagaunts just in general, with that melee leap, knocking stuff over so the Hormagaunts can run in and chomp it up. We have what is soon to be a 2-to-1 cap for Sindri. As you can see, none of the victory points natural on this map. Looks to be a pretty decent map in general. I'm sure there is some huge problem with it since it's barely played, but kind of hard for me to judge that since I'm not a 1v1 player these days. Termagants taking shots at the heretics. No toxin sack for these guys. In fact, no toxin sacks at all. Might have thought that was going to be a priority for Treehugger against those double heretics running around, but I guess not. Wanting to get the Warrior Brood up quickly. These are 25 power to get onto the field, which is cheaper than in retail. I believe they are 30 power. Going after this very much contested power, so it's important to get gens up on your natural and defend them. If you get your natural bashed on this map, you're going to be in a bit of trouble because you don't really have a secondary. Can't really imagine anyone building power on these, building gens on these other power points unless they're already way ahead and dominating the center. I seem to be getting a decent game out of this map so far. I quite like this central area. These stairs are kind of narrow, but it's a 1v1, so it's not like huge 3v3 armies are trying to get up there. I'm not sure if the super heavy vehicles, Baneblades and Land Raiders, can even get up those things. It might be able to squeeze up, but nothing else would. 466, 419. Heretics in amongst the warriors. These guys do have their aspiring champion, and there is the coruscating flame from the Sword of Flame on the Heretics, doing damage over time to everything, and they do eventually get a warrior brood and another one. Good engagement for Sindri. Lost a bunch of Heretics, but they are, in fact, he might lose the entire squad here. Hormagaunts in retreat path, actually budged out of the way by their own Hive Tyrant. Termagants almost going down also. Frantic engagements there. Heretics did lose a lot of models, but at only 13 requisition to replace. How much is it to replace a warrior? It's 4 power 50 rep. And Hormagaunts go down. Some misplays there by Treehugger. Blocked the wipe of the Heretics with his own Hive Tyrant, it seemed, or a potential wipe in a way. I think they would have at least got another model. Not sure if they would have got the aspiring champion himself. Look how much staying power this guy has, this Hive Tyrant. Gonna go down here though. CSM are no slouches in melee combat. He just stayed around a bit too long, but he did soak up a huge amount of damage there. Coruscating Flame doing its thing to those warrior brood. Looks like they were going to get away quite luckily with only one loss, but they did lose that second model. You see the green aura around the warrior heads. That is a basic synapse, providing some defensive bonuses to non-synapse creatures such as these Termagants and Hormagaunts, who are now gone. Hive Tyrant himself also emits a basic synapse, which is probably why he doesn't start with an activated ability. Only the Hive Tyrant and the Lord General do not start with activated abilities, unless you count the Tech Marine and Plague Champion turrets as not being abilities, which I suppose you could. Double CSM for Sindri now. Wants that capping power up, I think. Look at this. Chaos Sorcerer taking down a generator pretty damn well with his Sword of Flame. He's actually going to finish taking down a generator. Turns to have a look at the Hive Tyrant, goes after the other one, and then teleports out with the Vestments of the Warp. Tier 2 for Sindri. Treehugger in a bit of trouble here. Had to repurchase his commander. Lost his Hormagaunts, so I'm not sure if they had the adrenal glands. He does have... no, he doesn't. Only single toxin sacs. Even with double aspiring champion Heretics is going to be, which are a threat to that warrior brood. You might want to think about getting a Barb Strangler. The only reason he's not is maybe because the sorcerers could be annoying. Just teleport in and start whacking them. But Barb Strangler is awesome against Heretics. Does a fair chunk of damage per shot, and obviously suppresses them as well. There's double Tzeentch worship now. That will not only infiltrate the CSM, but actually infiltrate the Heretic squad that is worshipping. Warrior Brood are a detect unit, and he's going for adrenal glands here and Gene Steal as well. 466, 298. We might see the improved synapse war gear to support what is going to be a pretty fearsome melee blob when the Gene Stealers come out. Double Heretics on that Warrior Brood though, with Coruscating Flame up, and they stayed in that engagement way too long. Way too long. Dark Flames in retreat path. Might see the end of one of these squads. Trying to finish off the Warrior Brood there. Sword of Flame damage over time is not enough to do so. No. Unlucky not to wipe one of those, but that is a lot of stuff for Treehugger to reinforce. As soon as double Heretics were on those warriors, he should have got them the hell out of there. They do have their adrenal glands, so they are up to a very respectable 1485 hit points at level 1 with some heavy melee damage now, providing melee synapse to non-synapse melee creatures such as these very fearsome Gene Stealers power melee squad that are so scary. They have so much melee skill. They actually start with 80 melee skill, and melee synapse will take them up to 90. So very difficult to deal with them in melee fights, since you're relying a lot of the time on special attacks to win those, unless you're a Terminator and you have raw DPS from your splash damage weapon or something. 466, 298. Warrior Brood capping mid for a 2-1 for Treehugger. Chaos Dreadnoughts on the field. Walker for Chaos begins with this autocannon, as you see. Good damage to all targets. Small area effect. A melee claw. Also has an underslung twin-linked bolter, which fires Automatically, you see it firing there. Actually does some damage. Does not have a sound effect though, for whatever reason. 458, 298. There's a double cap for treehugger. Gonna get a triple hit. Termagant's capping over on this southeast corner. Heretics with a Aspiring Champion at level 2, almost level 3. That's those Warrior Brood kills they got. We really did keep them in that engagement way too long. 436, 298, Dreadnought forcing melee combat on Termagants. There is the Crippling Poison on Heretics. A bit of a strange time to use it since they weren't trying to get into combat there. I think he used it earlier and they just chased the Heretics down and used the ability, and while he was watching somewhere else or something. Hive Tyrant has gone for Crushing Claw and Warpfield. Crushing Claw doing 108 heavy melee DPS and will do half of that to the Dreadnought since it doesn't have melee resistance in the default state. Genestealer's almost whacked. The Coruscating Flame Heretics doing really, really well. You see the Hive Tyrant here going to town on that Dreadnought. He's going to lose his Dreadnought if he's not careful here. Trying to force off the Hive Tyrant who pops his shield. And I think he will force him off, maybe even take him down if he forces melee combat, but he does not. Warps the Dreadnought out of trouble, in fact, into retreat pod, I should say. Well played there by Sindri, that's quick thinking. Use the Warp Global to teleport the Dreadnought to his commander so he could smack the Hive Tyrant in the face on retreat with that 73 DPS heavy melee claw. Could have just put the double CSM into melee, I think, and maybe taken him down with the Sorcerer there as well. But he made sure. Termagant's bashing power. These guys do not have Toxin Sacks. Not very often you see that Tyranid player in tier 2 without Toxin Sacks on Termagant. Heretics now worshipping. These guys, level 3, did lose the other Heretic squad though. Somewhere completely missed that. Treehugger with a lot of red. Wow, he's a 440 red. Here comes the very scary blob of Genestealers under melee synapse. Now he's using double slaughter though. It's an ability that the CSM get from their Aspiring Champion. Improves their range damage and also gives them a melee toggle, so they'll go into combat with chainsaws drawn. Pretty cool, but no match for Genestealers, especially if they can use their Adrenal Rush ability, which improves their speed and their damage and self-heals them. It's an amazing ability for Genestealers. Another Chaos Dreadnought for Sindri. Interesting. Double Mark of Khorne Dreadnoughts. That would be pretty fun to see against this melee blob. Not so fun for the Tyranids though. Maybe one Mark of Khorne, one Mark of Tzeentch for the mass suppression. Frenzied Barrage. Now, what does he do with this blob of stuff? He's going towards base for some reason. Thought he was going to head over to the power and try and bash it. Looks like we are going to get at least one Mark of Khorne Dreadnought. Not sure why he pushed up there. Maybe wanting to take a look. Sindri is pushing everything up apart from his Sorcerer towards that eastern side to retake those points, I assume. Sorcerer's level 5 is done well. Teleports away. Teleport's so good on this map, I think, for the Sorcerer or any teleporting commander, since you can use it much to your advantage against melee troops with this central arrangement, since they have to use the stairs. 293, 275 is tier 3 for Treehugger, and yeah, I think that's the right call. Maybe Tyrant Guard, but with that Mark of Khorne Dreadnought around, which he hasn't actually seen yet, I don't think, the Tyrant Guard would be toast. Warrior Brood again staying in this engagement way too long. For some reason, he's not focusing them. That was very, very strange. Had some pathing issues, I think. But a Warrior Brood again get away, or do they? 35 hit points on 2 models. How is that? 25 hit points on 2 models. No, they do lose one. 267, 275. Very lucky escape again. It was very, very strange. Seemed to get them very low. And then everything stopped attacking him. I think he switched both of these CSM to slaughter and then melee, and they couldn't path around the Dreadnought to get to them. If he just kept them in their ranged stance, I think he would have taken out those warriors. Chaos Dreadnought Markov Khorne is so scary. That 40% resistance to melee attacks from the melee resistance aura, not to mention the Blood Rage, which improves damage and speed at the cost of not being able to control your unit, also improves damage resistance, I believe. So it's very turns into such a scary thing. More heretics on the way for Sindri, gives him that worship and repair support on the field, and there's the double cap for Sindri. Treehugger is tier 3 with a fair amount of resources, and I think pretty lucky to still have this warrior brood around at level 2, and Synapse does get better as you level up the Synapse creature, so it's important to keep your warriors alive and level them up, or keep any Synapse creature alive. Termagants in retreat with 2 models. Heretics wondering why they're shooting at us. In melee combat with Termagants, can they finish them off? That's a bit of a weird retreat, but they do go down. Treehugger not paying attention at all there. Here comes that Markov Khorne Dreadnought. What does he do against this thing? He needs a Carnifex. But even that, I mean, even that with Blood Rage, able to warp it out, and this other Chaos Dreadnought, which can easily get Marco Tzeentch if he does see a Carnifex, and there is a Carnifex on the way. What does he go for though? Does he go for the Venom Cannon, which could be tied up by the Chaos Dreadnought and would get trounced if that was the case, or does have the range advantage and that big burst damage, or does he go for a Thornback Carnifex and try and go toe-to-toe that thing? Which again, I mean, the Sorcerer could just warp it out if it gets into trouble that way. 250, 203. What's the alternative though? Venom Brood up. Be a bit more disciplined with your Termagants and keep slaughter CSM and heretics away with Toxin Sacks. Doesn't actually have Toxin Sacks on his remaining squad, so this is going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for Treehugger, even with the Carnifex on the field. Does he have a nuke? He does have a nuke, which could be telling, could hit that really badly on the CSM blob and get his Gene Stealers in there, maybe wipe a squad. But again, it's a very easy nuke to spot, the Tyrant formation, since you get that massive marker. It does pop up very quickly though. I think even if you retreat immediately, it will still hit you, or hit you somewhat. Depends how quick the unit is, I suppose. Level 3 and level 2 CSM. Painful, this is pain. Rending Claws up for the Gene Stealer, so they are now a huge threat for vehicles since they get melee heavy damage now. Is going in for double melee slaughter. Dreadnought, wow, look at the Dreadnought's health just absolutely fly down. That was crazy. But can he get the Gene Stealers out of there alive? There's the Blood Rage. Blood Rage Dreadnought now actually going after the Sorcerer, who teleports away, and it is a Venom Cannon Carnifex. Hive Tyrant goes down. That was crazy. The speed at which the Dreadnought went down had a Warrior Brood, Rending Claw Gene Stealers, and the Hive Tyrant all wailing on it, I think. Probably not all of the models, since they couldn't all get around it. Sorcerer lives, level 6, and lives. Treehugger needs to try and split. Because if that Chaos Dreadnought gets in there with double slaughter CSM, level 4 CSM now, these guys almost level 3. That's so difficult to fight head on, even with the Carnifex around. He should use that without number global, I think, since it only costs red now. Get upgraded Hormagaunts and upgraded Termagants on the field, and try and cap up this northwestern side. Or corner, I should say. Gene Stealers finding CSM, but they do get away after capping, so there's the triple for Sindri. Is this the game right here? There is something going to the northwest VP. It's Termagants, which have mostly been used to cap, I suppose. What does he want now? Does he go for heavy hitting monstrous creature, or a Doom or Melanite or a Lictor, or does he try and get some tier 1 units? Oh, he did use it. He did use without number, spawning Adrenogran Hormagaunts, which will be under melee synapse, of course, and Toxin Sacks Termagants. So not far off getting a Lictor Alpha, Lictor up, I should say, which would be awesome. Maybe drop some capillary towers as well for that speed buff. I don't see any. They don't. Oh, there's one. They don't actually turn up on the minimap. 2474. There's the 1-to-1 cap. Sindri might be blobbing up a bit too much here. Seems like he is going to try and hold this VP and take mid. Maybe just teleport his sorcerer over while everything's fighting, and that will probably win him the game. Chaos Terminator is making an appearance, as you can see. Here's a Blood Rage Dreadnought. Venom Cannon Carnifex is shooting at what? Shooting at the Heretics? What is he up to? Lightning Claw Terminator is going after it. That's a splash damage power weapon, a very, very dangerous one, but power melee is not ideal for taking out vehicles, especially 1350 hit points of vehicles. Chaos Dreadnought is going to go down unless he can warp it out. No, he cannot. You saw the Gene Stealers taking huge chunks of damage from each of those splash damage heavy melee attacks, but they live, and he's going straight after the Terminators. And what is this? It's the... I always forget what this thing's called. Demonic Summoning, is it? Spits out bloodletters and allows you to reinforce your units, and yes, that does work on Chaos Terminators. Gene Stealers are trying to decap, and they do decap, but he's going to lose them if he's not careful. What is he up to here? He just lost them. As opposed, he needed to stop the decap. But the Sorcerer has taken mid, so he sacrifices his Gene Stealers to stay in the game. But is it enough? Carnifex actually helped take out one of the Terminators, and even though he did purchase a reinforcement, he did not, it wasn't active for long enough for them actually to complete that reinforcement, and the Bioplasma does not hit flush. Carnifex with the Venom Cannon still hurts in melee combat, as you might imagine. 2-2-1-4. I don't think the Thornback upgrade actually increases the Carnifex's melee damage. I just think it gives it a big chunk of health, and the charge ability, of course, which is awesome, and the ability to spawn Rippers. Sindri seems to think he's going to lose because of the Carnifex. Has he seen the other one? I don't think he has. He took out the Gene Stealers, which was the job of these Chaos Terminators, I suppose. And they will absolutely mop the floor with this Warrior Brood. But the Carnifex is not so much. And Sindri, I suppose, feels that he can't get anti-vehicle. I mean, he could get Havocs up with a las cannon. This Carnifex is a Thornback. 1650 hit points with the melee resistance aura. I think it's not easy to deal with. 1674. There's the triple cap for Treehugger. Can he win a game? Ton of formation, beautifully placed. Very, very well placed. Sindri does the full retreat out there, and that is gonna hurt him. He does have Heretics cap in northwest. He's playing it right. He's not completely blobbing, but taking a very strong army to one side, capping the other. These capillary towers from the Tron formation will grant bonuses, synapse bonuses to nearby Tyranids. Allied Tyranids, that is. These Chaos Terminators do not want to fight a Thornback Carnifex in melee combat. It's not going to thrash them, but they're not going to win that fight, and they don't want to lose models, obviously. Warrior Brood almost level 3. More Gene Stealers on the way for Treehugger. Seems to want to fight those Terminators pretty bad. Heretics wiping out the Termagants, and need to start capping though. 111-4. Treehugger holding on with the double cap hit. And Sindri's prediction of a loss might be the case, because he's struggling to deal with these double Carnifexes marching around. No sign of Havocs. He had to reinforce a bunch of stuff, did he? What? He went double Marker Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines? Why? They don't do a lot of anti-vehicle damage. As you can see, they only do 10% of their damage which is like 2 DPS at level 1 to vehicles. That is very, very strange choice. Not a cheap upgrade either. It's like 130.25, isn't it? Or 125.25, I think. Mark of Tzeentch. Yeah, he's going to shred those Genestealers pretty well, but the Carnifexes, I think, are the biggest problem. No idea, by the way. Oh, he does take out the Genestealers. No idea what happened to Treehugger's Termagants and Hormagaunts that he spawned. 55-4. Treehugger with a double cap, but basically no army. Here's another without number. 47-4. Needs to cap, and does cap. Caps with Hormagaunts, who are getting shredded. That Venom Cannon doing huge amounts of damage to those Chaos Terminators with full accuracy, since Chaos Terminators in general are regarded large units. They have to teleport away, in fact. 33-4, single cap for Treehugger. And he's going to get a double cap here. That without number just getting him straight back into the game here. Straight back into contention. Hive Tyrant is down. He might want to get this guy back up because he has that warp field and that very dangerous crushing claw. Thornback Carnifex is guarding mid, I suppose. It's a pretty good way to use that guy. This one is uncapped. Repurchase the Hive Tyrant and march him up there, maybe. Doesn't need to. There is the double cap and the win for Treehugger, holding on Sindri with that very strange decision at the end of the game to get double Mark of Tzeentch CSM. No idea why he did that, facing 2 Carnifexes. I mean, he was facing other stuff at points, but those were the big obstacles to capping. Maybe that... I think the Lightning Claws were also a mistake. Yeah, he wanted to go after the Warrior Brood, but he did have Dreadnoughts and stuff, and if he got a single Mark of Tzeentch CSM and... Oh, he did actually get Havocs up at the end there. Too late, though. If he had a single Mark of Tzeentch CSM and Slaughter on the other, he would tear down Warriors pretty quickly, and then he'll get Synapse Bombs and stuff, but hey. That's how Sindri played it. And he loses a very close game. And Tyranid Tier 3 doing the job seriously for Treehugger. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.